How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and another entry in sharing your stories. If you're new around here, this is a video series where I am doing just like the title says. I am sharing stories that have been sent in by members of the community here on the Vanlife Plus YouTube channel. And I'm realizing I kind of situated my chair in a poor location there. Wouldn't want to fall into the river. It is a little windy in this location, just like the last time. I'm hoping the microphone will do its job and cut out any unnecessary noise. If this is your first time, pardon me, watching one of these videos, like I said, it's exactly that. I'm sharing stories hidden by the community, whether or not they are stories about their van life aspirations or goals, their nomadic journeys they have already embarked upon, or even just tales from their lives that they might want to share. This community has proven something to me over the last 2 years of my van life, and that is that it is incredibly caring and loving at its core. And I feel like this is a little way I can give back and just tell the stories of some of the amazing people that are here supporting what I do by watching what I do. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Make sure my screen brightness is up so I can see what I'm reading. And our first story comes from Terry. Her subject line reads, "A YouTube fan." Terry says, "Hello, Matthew. I just wanted to say how much I love watching your videos. I check every day for new ones. I wish the world had been more open-minded when I was young. I was a single parent of 4 kids for the longest time. They are now grown and are now raising their own. I'm proud of each and every one of them, by the way. I am a retired correctional officer, now with a boatload of descendants, but now still with time on my hands, as now they're growing up too. Who knew life could go so fast? Which is why I love what you do. You try and not miss a moment of your life that you know you can never get back. I wish I would have been able to think that way years ago. It felt like it was all I could do to have enough to buy food at the end of the pay week. It was a struggle until I finally landed a job with the state, which also allowed me to retire without having to depend on anyone for my livelihood. It came pretty late, but still did, so I'm thankful for that. Like all of us, there is so much more to my story, more bad times than I like to think about, but in hindsight, I see the purpose they have served. I always thought we should have started out old and got younger as we went. I'm not sure Benjamin Button would agree. But life is short, and we should keep in mind that, like a flower, we appear in the world just to wither and age to leave the world, and it's important to not waste a second of it. Last May, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. I did the awful surgery and the chemo chaser. We'll see next month if I'm still in remission. I feel at least alive again. Out of boredom of not being able to do much else until my strength is back, I started the fun hobby of making decals. I'm not the best at it, but I love doing it. I made you one for van life, not perfect, but maybe it can make me feel like I'm going on the journey with you. This will be the first time in a long while that I have used snail mail. If you decide you don't like it, it's okay. I'll still watch every single one of your videos with your 2 precious sidekicks and baby girl. Good luck in all you do, Matt. Signed, Terry." Well, first of all, Terry, I apologize for being so tardy in reading your story. As I've explained before, I've gotten busy and my focus has been elsewhere, and I sincerely apologize to everyone who has sent in their stories. Obviously, things have changed and life has gone on as it is. Terry, I did receive your mail. I know you haven't seen it here on the channel yet, but believe me, there's a very good reason for that. Please stay tuned. I hope you are doing well regarding your unfortunate diagnosis. It's not it's not a pleasant thing for anybody to have to deal with, for sure. And thank you very much for your support and your kind words. And yeah, when you say, "Who knew life could go by so fast?" You know, and I am learning it every single day. I was just on a walk with my cousin on this beautiful camping trip that we're on. And we saw a little girl in her dad's arms that was probably, oh, I don't know, a year and a half old, maybe really small, playing with his hat. And Lindsay just looked at me and she's like, "It's hard to believe that it wasn't that long ago that Brooklyn was that small." And it is. I mean, I always felt like life goes by way too fast. For me, high school, as soon as I got out of high school, that's when life really started to go. And ever since I became a father, it's gone even faster. You get these landmarks, if you will, our children, that definitely start to bring everything into perspective. Um, yeah, I definitely try to live my life in the exact way that you described here in your email. Not everybody is that fortunate enough. A lot of people, I guess, are still sort of tied to the old ways of thinking and the way things are supposed to be done. I just hope that myself and others like me living an alternative lifestyle can set an example for certain people that inspires them to realize exactly what you said, that we only get one sort of crack shot at this life, don't we? We got to try to make the most of it. And that was definitely a big part of the reason why I decided to take my life back into my own hands. So, don't want to live your life for somebody else, and you don't want to waste it. That is for damn sure. Thank you for writing in, Terry. I appreciate that. Our next story is a repeat offender, and my goodness, that is a small font. I don't understand why all of these emails in Gmail are different sized fonts. I know I can make it bigger by command plusing it. As I said, repeat offender. This comes from Andrea, my friend out in Fernie. I hope you're doing well, my dear. And again, I apologize. You sent this back in July. I'm doing my best. Andrea writes in and she says, "Hello, Matthew. I hope you don't mind. I decided to send another story along to share with you. There is an old adage that you should not meet your heroes. Well, me being me, I decided to ignore that, and I'm glad I did. Back in February, I was scheduled to be in Calgary for LASIK eye surgery, and I asked if, oh God, okay, and I'd ask if you'd be able to meet me for dinner. This was during a cold snap in the early days of your leg pain. Yeah. You graciously agreed to meet me, and we settled on a restaurant in the hotel where I was staying. We had a discussion about a pub that turned out to be close, and for which I was grateful we discovered it before standing in the cold, freezing our whatsits off. You arrived hobbled yet smiling and agreed to a hug from me. That hug felt like coming home, and in that moment I knew we would be fast friends. We went to the restaurant and over the next several hours chatted about everything except van life. We discussed co-parenting, family dynamics, faith, being in the world yet not of it, and the joy of aging bodies and injuries. She did put joy in quotations. In the end, we went outside and I saw Lucky in all of her frozen glory. I remember remarking that she looked smaller in person, and you said you thought the same thing when you saw Chrome's van up close. Something to do with camera angles, I can't quite remember. Anyway, I had asked to meet Stella and Penny, and you graciously let me feed them. They were still on kibble at the time, and I remember making a mess dropping kibble all over the place. Stella came first, then Penny, both delightful. I remember remarking how Penny looked quite round in person as opposed to simply looking fluffy on screen. And Stella, as commanding and magical as ever. They both came to investigate and allowed me to pet them. I will always cherish that encounter. And then you got out of the van to give me a proper hug, and I went back inside the hotel to sleep before I had the surgery the following day, which, by the way, went swimmingly. As a minister and a person of God, my work is to walk with people when they are at their best and at their worst. I take in a lot of grief and sadness, as well as joy and expectation. My work/life balance is not the best, yet I am getting a little better at it. I carry a lot and am still learning ways to deal with the vicarious trauma and the personal CPTSD that I carry. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder. The industry in which I work is dying. The institutional church structure is collapsing, as it needs to. I walk with families who have suffered the death of a parent or child or sometimes grandchild. More and more often, the funerals I preside are for deaths by suicide. It's a lot, and yet it's the most important work I have ever done. I truly believe that faith will always find a way, that God will always be a God of love and inclusion. And most often, we need simply get out of the way to let the Holy Spirit do her thing. I struggle with feelings of inadequacy and imposter syndrome, and find it difficult to open up and share my feelings with anyone. I still struggle with suicidal ideation, sudden continuous thoughts of ending my life. They are usually just flashes of ideas, yet sometimes they overtake my thoughts. Those are dark and scary days. Matthew, you have commented before that you don't feel worthy of the praise you receive and don't understand why people are so drawn to you and your way of life. I want you to read this carefully and then tuck it away for moments when you feel less than your best, which I hope will be few and far between. In my darkest days, when I don't want to be here anymore, I go to your YouTube page and watch the build videos. I daydream about my day when I will be able to buy a van and convert it to my retirement home. As of this writing, only 4 years, 5 months, 27 days, and 14 hours ish until my retirement begins. I watch these videos because I see a man who made a decision to live his life on his terms and do the best he can for his daughter and for himself. You are a man of great integrity and great faith, and that draws me in. When we met, you were you. You were Matthew, not an actor playing a role for likes on screen or pretending to be someone or something you are not to further your success. You are, in fact, the opposite of that. A goofy weirdo, much like me, who loves life and enjoys watching from the fringes. Someone who is figuring out a lot of stuff as he lives through it, making mistakes, making messes, God bless the wet wipe, and being his authentic self. And once your foot is healed, I expect there to be more dancing, please. Well, I hope you enjoyed what I did on Patreon last night. In the end, you give me hope that I can continue to live my own particular brand of weirdo on my own terms and be okay. Recently, my two besties came to visit for our annual week-long vacation. They each flew into Calgary Airport, and I met them wearing an inflatable dinosaur costume, as one does. It was great fun and inspired by you. Thank you for showing it's okay to be goofy. Thank you for showing that when times are tough, there are ways to look for laughter and joy. And if you can't find it, you can create it yourself. You are, in being yourself, saving lives. And so, thank you for being you. For showing the world that you are a dad who loves fiercely and fully. A cousin who supports and is supported. Who is the first to give credit and thanks. A son who lives on his own terms unapologetically, loves his parents and wants to spend time with them. A brother who learns from and teaches his skills and all that kind of stuff. Why are you doing this to me, Andrea? I can do this! That you are a friend to many with a big heart and a bigger soul. A man of God whose faith runs through everything he does and makes space for everyone. Thank you for opening up your corner of the interwebs to those of us who, for now, need to live vicariously through you. And from a personal place, thank you, Matthew, for the time you give me when I need advice. Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement you have given me as I ponder which power source to use. VTOMAN for the win. And whether I can take the trip to Winnipeg successfully, of course you can, you told me. And you did. Because I'm horrible at reading these stories in a timely fashion. Words are a poor substitute for the feelings I feel deep inside me, for which I will be eternally grateful. I'm still here because I have unfinished work to do, a dream to realize, and a van to build. And a lot of that is because of you. So thanks again, you're awesome. Your friend and fellow life adventurer, Andrea. You suck. Thank you for writing in, Andrea. Moving right along. Not that fast. You made some great points that really validate what I'm doing, which is a weird thing to do. I feel like I'm always giving feedback to the people, like not even advice, because I think I'm the last person that should give advice on anybody's life stories or situations or anything. But in doing what I'm doing, trying to show as transparently as I can my life online and the changes that I made in my life and how they can affect you for the positive, and to be true to yourself and be who you are, that obviously comes with a lot of flack. And as incredible as this community is, you do get the downers, and the ignorant people that call you out and they say, "Oh, you're just being fake. You're just trying to be funny, or you're annoying, or whatever." And I mean, that's fair. A lot of those points you just be like, "Well, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it." But you get the people that are tearing you down. So to read something like this that's worded so nicely and is exactly what I'm trying to do, because I can sit here and say, don't care what anybody thinks about you and just be yourself. That's a very, very hard thing to do, and I think that will be one of the hardest things anybody ever tries to do in their life. I truly do believe it, but that doesn't mean that it's just the way it is all of the time. So to hear somebody say, "I get you and I see what you're doing and I know you a little bit better than maybe anybody else online does," is I feel very justified in what I'm doing, which is a nice feeling to feel. 2 stories in, and I'm wreck. Thank you, Andrea. There are no other words, and I will see you very, very soon. Okay, well, I'm going to do one more because our next story comes from Cindy. Cindy writes in with a very simple tagline that just says, "My story." She starts by saying, "Of course, this is not my whole story, just the last year or so. Back in 2005, I bought a mobile home in a small mobile home park and lived there happily until 2022, when my landlords sold the property. Of course, everyone that lived there was evicted by the new owners, so they could more than double the rent. Because I was the only one that owned my trailer, I was given a 180-day no-cause eviction. When I looked at my rights, I saw that I could not be evicted without cause, so I wasn't too worried. I didn't think I would be going anywhere. So when my landlords took me to court, they disputed the term trailer park. They disputed the term trailer park. Ugh. They ended up winning, and I had 7 days to leave my home, and then 45 days to be able to move my mobile home from the park. So my previous landlords had put up a wooden fence around the property, which made it impossible to remove my home without removing the wooden fence and putting it back up, which would have been incredibly cost prohibitive. Yep, it's all right. Even if I did have some place to move my mobile home to, which I did not. So after 45 days, my home is considered abandoned property, and the new landlords got my home for free. This happened last year in December, and I still cry when I think about it. Still can't believe that it happened. The worst part is, the day before court, my car broke down, and it was some kind of transmission problem, which I couldn't afford to fix, so I sold my car for salvage. I ended up renting a car and taking all of my camping gear down to Quartzsite, Arizona, and have been living homeless here since then. I started working at a local Carl's Jr. in March and am now living in a cabin in an RV park. So I'm no longer living in a tent in the desert, but I still don't own my car, and I'm trying to come up with the money to get my own car. A couple of years before this happened, I was watching YouTube videos and had seen all the videos about bus life, van life, nomad life, all of that, and really wanted to do it. I'm 56 years old, and I figured it would be the only way I would be able to travel the country and see all the beautiful things in the United States. I actually realized this was something I could do as my job was a dasher for DoorDash, that my job was a dasher for DoorDash, so I could work anywhere in the country. Unfortunately, fear kept me from doing this. I'm hoping that when I can finally get a car that I will be able to do what I wanted to do before and travel around and see the country. Because at this point, once you've lived in the desert of Arizona, nothing scares you. Big LOL. I guess what I want to say is, don't let fear keep you from doing things that you don't want to do. You may end up regretting it. I know I did. I love your videos, Matthew, and watching your journey. Thank you so much, and keep it up. Well, thank you very much for writing in, Cindy. Again, I'll apologize to you. You sent that in on August 25th. My apologies for being so tardy. And I love your outlook there, that you're still working towards it, that you're right. People shouldn't. Nobody should let their lives be ruled by fear, you especially, my dear. The one thing I would like to give advice on in this regard is that, given your situation, and that's completely understandably frustrating. And it's just another reason why I have such a problem with legalities of certain zoning restrictions and the way it can never just be up to one person. You think you own your land, you might not. It's just we are always being told what to do, it seems like, or how we can live our lives. And it just seems so nonsensical to me, which is exactly why the nomadic life appeals to me. You were already doing the nomadic life, going down to Quartzsite in your car and doing what you could, and then getting the cabin at the end of the day. I think you are a perfect candidate for this life, but I don't want people to get hung up on the idea that my life is, I'm so down in the dumps. My life is so unfortunate. I'm so put upon. I'm not saying suck it up, but what I'm saying is, oh, well, if I could just travel, I would be happy. No. If you want to travel, cool. Make that a stretch goal. Absolutely. But van life does not equal traveling around the country and seeing beautiful locations. That's what it could be eventually, sure. But if you've been watching my channel, sure, I happen to live in a very beautiful small corner of the world, and I do the same trips back and forth, very similar locations, and I like to share how I see the world through my lens. And I like to pride myself as being the tiniest bit of a storyteller at the end of the day, which has benefited me. But for me, van life was a way out of all of that nonsense, a way to get away from the chains that I felt were holding me down societally, right? And I think that is what people need to focus on more than I just want to travel. And that's what van life means, because it's not what it means, because you can't just decide to live in a vehicle and then drive around. As you know, right? You've got your job, and I hope you are still doing very well, and I hope you are still on track to get a car or a van that you own outright, so you don't have anything holding you down. But just know that van life can be more than just travel. It can be a means for a better life in more ways than one. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here. Thank you very much to everybody who wrote in. I do appreciate it. If you would like me to read your story here on the channel, please don't hesitate to do so. You can submit your stories to the email address vanlifepluscontact@gmail.com, and I would be more than happy to share your story here on my channel. Until the next one, everybody, just go out there, be happy, be creative, be yourself. Most importantly, be positive.